We begin today's recording by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are on. I am on Burrawang land. Where are you, Breezer?
I am on the land of the Djajarurrung people.
We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who are tuning in today.
And wherever you're listening to the potty today, make sure you know whose land you're on. Join us each week for some booze-free banter about life without booze.
If you're entertaining cutting back your booze by a day, a week, a month, or for the rest of your life, we would love for you to tune in.
Buckle up and come along for a ride that may just change your life. If any of today's conversations have been triggering, please reach out to your local support centre in Australia. That is Lifeline 131114. Let's crack a Altina, Meso.
Let's crack it. What are you into, Breezer?
Well, I have cracked the finger lime Sauv Blanc. And can I just say, bloody delicious drop. Oh, my God. Like, I did drink the whole bottle over the course of a day a few weeks ago. Absolutely divine. Absolutely divine is all I'll say.
I'm loving the Liberate edition.
Yes.
Liberation Nation.
Liberation
Yes.
Nation. What are you drinking, Meso?
Yeah, I'm on the pepperberry Shiraz. It's the bursting juicy red fruits and the hint of dark chocolate, a dry, smooth finish with vanilla notes and layered lingering spice. It is, I've got to say.
Yeah, it's up there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's up there.
Yeah,
it is up there. And they're vegan, gluten-free, obviously alcohol-free, and no added sugar. Like, tickety boom, Altina.
Everything you want. And
the bottle is gorgeous as well.
Oh, stunning. Beautiful labels. All the thought and love has gone into it, and they've given us love to give our listeners love with a discount code, Breezer. What is it?
They have given us a whopping 15% off using the code BFB15. Where do they shop, Meso?
www.altinadrinks.com.
Thank you, Altina. Thanks for your support.
We love you.
Meso!
Breezer!
Here we are again on a high.
On a high. In our uniform.
Yes, in our gratitude T-shirts. We've just had some massive, awesome banter with the guests, haven't we?
Oh, we really have. How fun. What a ripper.
Oh, so fun. So we've just had on Natasha Green. So Natasha was on MAFS season 7 in 2018. Absolute cracking bird. But can I just tell you how this came about, Meso?
Do. I love a backstory.
So I obviously watched the season, so I was aware of who she was. And then last year in August, the kids and I were up at Airlie Beach, up in the Whitsundays, and we went out to the Great Barrier Reef for a day. And I spotted Tash. I'm like, that looks like Natasha off MAFS. So I didn't know what her handle was, but I did a location search on Instagram. Yeah, that's how I found her. Because she jumped off the ferry at Hamilton Island. So I'm like, right, punch in Hamilton Island. Boom, there was a picture of her and her friends. So then I found her handle and I was just sort of scrolling through her Instagram. And then I saw a post that she had been 12 months off the booze last year. And I was like, righto, she's got a story to tell. Let's get on the pod. So fast forward, it's 12 months because she's just racked up her 2-year soberversary. We finally got to connect with her, which was awesome. It was worth the wait, wasn't it?
It absolutely really was. I love that story. How you get curious. You just deep dive and connect. Incredible. Yeah, how good is she?
What a beautiful woman she is, isn't she? Like,
she really is.
I don't know. I just really resonated with everything that she was saying. And she's in such a positive space and, wanting to help people as well. Like, she's in a space where she can help people and is wanting to help people if they reach out to her or want some help. Yeah. So, it was
just so warm and open and calm.
Yes. Calm.
And just really owns it and is really comfortable with it. And it's, God, how good does she look, so fresh and glowy. Inner glow, but it's inner glow.
Yeah. And we also didn't know her post or pre when she was drinking.
Yeah.
Or in the midst of drinking. But I feel like she's had a massive transformation from where she was to where she is now without knowing her before, when she was drinking. But you can just see.
I wouldn't have minded being a fly on the wall in those days, though, just to see how wild
Yeah,
things
she gave it a
got.
nudge.
Yeah.
She gave it a nudge.
With some pretty high-end partying. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, now she's settled in Byron Bay and just, has a wholesome life
yeah.
and
Beautiful. Yes, which just gives the ripple effect of what she puts out into the world will just help so many. So we love
Absolutely.
this chat.
Loved it. Loved
Thank you.
it. Let's bring her in, Meso.
Let's do it.
Okay, a big, warm, booze-free Bants welcome to our very special guest, Natasha Green. Tash, welcome to the potty.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here.
And it's great timing, isn't it? We're actually going to talk about your 2-year soberversary, but we throw all our guests into the deep end and we give you guys an opportunity to tell us a shame story of you on the piss or a confession session. Take your pick, Tash.
I feel like it's going to be a little bit of both because one of it's a little bit lighthearted, but the end of it, I mean, it's still sort of lighthearted, but it was a bit of a dangerous situation to get into. So
Hit us.
cool. So I actually, as I think we all try to have the best of intentions, I went into my boss's girlfriend's birthday dinner and I drove because I was like, I don't want to drink. And I was also working at a nightclub called Marquee in Sydney at the time. And so this is not a good time. My dog just got on birds.
I can hear your dogs. Just for our listeners, Tash has got 2 very boisterous doggies in the background. We're all for it.
So we went to go out for dinner. I drove in sober, and it was my intention not to drink for the night. And then we went out to dinner, and then somebody said, "Let's go to Marquee." And I said, "Oh, we're not really allowed in as staff."
They remind me of Rocky. Oh.
So we're not really allowed in as staff. So we went in, and the manager said, "Listen, you're the first staff member I've let in 2 years. Don't mess this up for everyone." And I was like, "No problem." So as the bottles started coming to the table, I thought I'll be right to have a couple of drinks. I got so inebriated, I projectile vomited all under the table of Marquee. So needless to say, staff were back on a ban after I left. And then I was like, right, and I was so embarrassed and I ran out and I was like, I'm just going to go sit in my car and make a game plan and see who else is out, because there's no way I can meet back up with the people whose birthday table I just vomited up all over. And so I sat in my car and I went to go send some messages, and next minute I woke up at 7 a.m. in the morning. I had blacked out with my car door open in a car park in the city. So a very dangerous situation that luckily nothing happened, but yes.
A near miss, a close miss.
Thanks, sweet God.
And is that with the nightclub? Is that because they didn't let staff in for that when they weren't working for that reason?
Literally, a girl had a overdose 2 years beforehand on the dance floor and had to get taken out by ambulance workers. So.
Does the rule still stand today, Tash? Now that you bought it,
I solidified it.
But it's like saying, "Don't press that button."
Yeah,
of course you got to press it.
Yeah, don't touch the hot plate. Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'm glad that nothing, sinister happened, and we can look back and reflect and have a bit of a giggle at it.
Totally.
Yeah. So talking about reflecting, we move into reflection section, Tash. So tell us 3 words that would describe yourself when you were drinking, and then we want to hear the 3 words to describe yourself off the booze now.
Okay. I was really thinking about this. It's like a double word. I'm going to count it as one word, but people pleaser was my biggest one. I had awful boundaries, and that always resonates me. And when I take time to reflect back on that, that's probably my biggest one of the situations that I put myself into. Egotistical.
Ooh, and had that one. That's a good one.
It's a good one.
And selfish.
Ooh, they're really good. It's so funny. I feel like when people are in sobriety, we can really own our egos a bit more and have a bit more of an understanding about that, because no one really wants to admit that their ego is playing a big part in things, do they? So it's kind of a bit of a low-key flex to go, yep, that was my ego there. Don't you reckon?
I love that. I've never thought about it like that. Yeah, it totally is. And I think it's so nice to have that fresh mind point and to look back and just be like, you know, at the time I was really like, look at all these cool parties I go to and all these people that are around me. And now I'm like, do you even still talk to any of those people? Like, were they really cool situations to be in?
Like Breezer always said, would those people be around when you needed your car tyre changed?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, they were great. What was it? Selfish. You spoke about being selfish too, Breezer, didn't you? I think me as well.
Yep. It's all about me. Yeah. It was all about me.
Yeah.
That's right. And there's so many people that would rely on me for things, and I would be like, you know, even like one day I had a photo shoot lined up, and friends of mine that were makeup artists and hairdressers had given up their morning on a weekend to get me ready for a photo shoot. And I woke up so hungover and I was like, no, not photo shooting. You know, and I just like think back and I was like, and I'd prepped so hard up to this photo shoot, and I went for a lunch. And the lunch obviously got out of hand, and I was like, you know, I wasn't even meant to drink at that lunch. And I've let a whole heap of people down, and that's something that always still reflects now, that situation.
Yeah.
So
letting the people down. We hear you. Hard relate. So let's fluff it back up. What are the 3 words now?
I'd like to say calm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is a big one for me as well. But just despite me completely losing my arms and legs there.
Yeah, I just think, you know, when you're the alcohol and the toxins and the chemical issues in your body, like I was so short and snappy at people, and now like things are just so like ducks off water's back, and it's just so much perspective that you gain.
Yeah.
I'd like to think humble, like, you know, I've grown up a lot in the last 2 years, I would say, and it's really taught me, like, you know, you're not the kingpin because you were on reality TV. Like, there's so many more wonderful people in the world doing all these great things, and it's really brought me back to a great level just to step away from the crowds that I used to hang out with.
Yeah.
And the last one, I think just motivated, I guess, and excited for life, like this whole new energy that I have and this whole new want to do something good. Motivated.
Motivated.
Yes.
I love
Strong
those
words.
so much. They were, I'm not joking. When you were talking about calm, I had goosebumps everywhere. It was, I so relate. You would be the same, Breezer. Like, it's just sobriety brings such a calmness. I really love that contrast between ego and humble. Like, you know, that's extraordinary.
All opposites.
Yeah, totally. It's really beautiful. And motivated. Yeah, love that. Actually, I was talking to a friend the other day, talking about some of the things that we talk about here on the podcast. I said, pretty sure I'm going to be cancelled one day. And he said, mate, you're not that important. Like, you're not that
brilliant.
But you're really not that important. I'm like, yeah, true. Like, but, you know, it's good to just get a little bit of a reality hit. So, yeah.
One of my favourite quotes, I don't know if I've shared this with you, Meso, but it's, you're special, but you're not that important.
Yeah, love that.
I like that. Yeah. I haven't heard that, but I'm gonna use that.
Good little check-in.
Thank you so much for sharing those. They were great and motivated too.
Brilliant.
Yeah. You know, I think that's it. When you're not hungover or you haven't got plans to go out every weekend, you have all this extra time, and it's like, you know, what am I going to put it towards that's good?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. As Bree says, eating
time.
up the day. Yeah. So much time.
So much time.
Like almost like, oh my God, there's so much more time in the day.
Totally.
I'm like reading
sit and reflect.
Yeah. I'm reading like a book every fortnight at the moment. Like that's how I spend my downtime rather than being hung or scrolling through my phone. Reading books. I love it. Love it.
Book reading is such a huge one. And I love it now because people know that I'm a book reader and they're like, I have a book for you to read.
Oh, you're a book reader too, Tash?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So good.
Tell her about your book club, Breezer.
Oh, yeah. So Basic Bitches Book Club. So we meet once a month. There's 4 of us, and we just we catch up about the book, but it's just a good catch up as well. So, yeah, it gives me life. I love it.
And we've got T-shirts and everything.
Yeah, we've got T-shirts, yeah.
I'm jealous. We started a book club up here, but I think we had two. We had like 20 of us, and we've never gotten together. And I don't know.
And that's the thing. Keep it small, Tash. Keep it tight. We don't let anyone in and no one's going out. But let's talk about you. Let's talk about you, because back in May, you celebrated 2 years alcohol-free. Congratulations, Tash.
Woo-hoo!
That is amazing. And we're actually saying off air how fresh you look.
Yeah,
Like,
glowing.
you're just glowing.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah.
glowing.
Yeah.
People comment on my skin all the time now, and I'm like, yeah, like my skin is really good. And it's so funny. I look back to old photos, and not just my skin, but my eyes look so empty when I was in the midst of that partying time. And I just feel good. And 2 years is such a milestone. And the reason it sort of kicked off is we came out of lockdown, and everyone went a bit mad, but we came out of lockdown. And I sat and had a little reflection, and I realized that I had nearly every day with at least one alcoholic beverage in November. And I was like, oh my God, like I haven't had a break from drinking in a month like that. I've never done that. That's really bad. And that was when I sort of recognized, I guess, for the first time that I wanted better. You know, so I left Sydney because I think that was one of my biggest issues, was being in Sydney and being around my normal network. And I didn't really have friends, like even my good friends who I'm still with now, but they'd want to meet up for a drink at the pub. You know, there was never an occasion where someone was like, let's go for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So getting out, I went and saw my mum lives in Noosa. So I took that time, and I thought we were about to go into lockdown again in Sydney. So I took that time, threw my pug in the car, packed up my car, and drove the night to get up to Noosa. And it was really funny up there. The first time I went out drinking, I got my drink spiked. And it was quite unfortunate because I'd been with different people, and then I started talking to a guy at the bar, and he was the owner of the bar. And we went to go and have a couple of more drinks, and I started throwing up projectile vomiting all over his backyard, and he'd been at work, so he was basically sober, and I was like, I'm so sorry. So that was like a loud message to me that, you know, the first time I'd gone to drink again, that was happening. And then New Year's came around, and a guy that I thought I had liked flew up to spend New Year's with me in the Gold Coast, and we were out to dinner with a group of friends, and he shushed me. Oh. And then, and he was like, I'm back to the apartment. And I was like, whatever. And then because I'd been drinking, I couldn't drive myself out of that situation, and I was down in the Gold Coast. So I got up at 4 a.m. the next morning once I'd sobered up and just left. And so I was like, right, like loud message. And that was my first New Year's I actually spent sober. And that was really nice. Like I didn't want to drink. I had alcohol there, and I was like, no, actually I'm really good. I'm just in this reflection period of how I ended up attracting a man that told me to shush in public. And then an ex-boyfriend, it always seems to be with men, doesn't it?
Yeah. Hard to relate.
An ex-boyfriend flew from Adelaide to come and see me in the Gold Coast and brought his two friends over, and we just partied for 2 days. I was in the worst mindset, and he hit me, and I actually pulled Gary back when we were friends. I had to call Gary, and I said, this guy's hit me. And so Gary had to come to my rescue and sort that situation out. And that was sort of at the time when Gary said, you know, what can we do to break this pattern? And so that was around the time when I was really like, right, that's it. That's the end of my partying. And I haven't partied since that happened. But to quit alcohol entirely, it still took a couple of more times. And some of it was with Gary, and we'd say, hey, like it's a special occasion. It was my birthday. And Gary was asking for my dad's permission to marry me. And we were like, the red wine was flowing. And then because I had my mum and my dad there who were divorced, and he has a new partner, and no one gets along particularly well, it was quite a tense situation. And the night actually got ruined, and I probably didn't handle my emotions that well because I was like 5 glasses of red wine deep. And it really ruined the night, and I probably came down a little bit harder on my dad than I should have. And so, you know, and that was the second last time I drank. And then the next time was actually the day that we got engaged, and Gary had this cover-up story, and there was 2 of our friends who were like, inviting us on a foodies event, and we sat on the seaplane. And when we came back from the seaplane, they sat them at our lunch table, and I was like, well, hold on, like I've just gotten engaged, like go and sit at your own table. And I didn't say anything, and I was sitting there drinking away. And by the time we got to the car, poor Gary just copped it. And we went home, and he was like, do you want to go do something? And I was like, no, I just want to go to bed. I don't feel good. Like I'm day drunk, hungover. Yeah. And we got up and we went for Chinese takeout at like 6 p.m. on the day that we got engaged. I was like, do you know what? I said to you, and we both agreed, like, this is the last event that we ruined from drinking. And so that was it. That was our last drink 2 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. You listened to the red flags though, Tash. Like
alcohol broke up with me. It was like, we don't want you here anymore.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that quote. Gosh, I'm so sorry that you copped some, that physical abuse. That sounds really frightening. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it is. And, I think that was sort of, I'm not that anyone under any circumstances ever deserves physical or emotional abuse, but I think at the time that was the energy that I was putting out, and that was the things that I was accepting in my life. And I really feel like at that point I had hit rock bottom, and I'm just totally grateful that, I haven't really ever gotten into detail about this on social media, and people have all these assumptions about mine and Gary's marriage, but really at my very lowest point in my life, Gary was my friend. And even though he was madly in love with me and I was like, I'm no good for you, leave me alone, he was really that person that saw something better in me. And, we did Andy Frisella's 75 Hard together, which is like which was our time trying to get sober. And that was a thing together, and we did it together. And I really think that's the sort of stuff that got me to 2 years sober. So
it's amazing effort.
Good on you, Gazza.
Yeah, go Gaz.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of given us those red flags, those big key moments that made you give up alcohol. But what was your relationship like? Can you sort of paint a picture for our listeners of what the relationship was like before you gave up?
I think my issue with alcohol is that I've always worked in like a hospitality industry. So, drinks after work were always the normal. But I think my problem with alcohol is that it was a binge relationship. So I would really go from, I'm not drinking tonight, to there was never one drink. That wasn't my thing. And even if I was going out for dinner with people, it would be multiple bottles of wine and recreational drugs. And it's just this ongoing snowball effect. And so for me, it was time, because everything was to an extreme.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, I was going to say hard relate.
Yeah.
And did that start like when you first started drinking, Tash, which most people we've interviewed are probably in their teens, like, 15, 16. Is that when it started? Like,
I'm going to have a confession time on here. Actually, I was a handful of a teenager, I'm going to say, but I was actually 13 and I went out to late night shopping with a couple of girlfriends, and I had never drank really before, like a couple of like little mini glasses with your parents at a dinner thing, but I necked a bottle of white wine and ended up arrested late night shopping, and then ended up in the hospital, but I didn't need my stomach pumped because I vomited the lining of my stomach up all by myself. So that was my introduction to drinking, and some people would have raised that as a red flag.
You sound like you're a good vomiter. Like you're really good at that.
I love a vomit. I don't know, like my body literally rejects alcohol and always has, but it's meant to help with the hangover the next day to get it out the night before. I think that was my theory.
How good was late night shopping back in the day?
Yeah. I grew up in Noosa, like it was a small beachside town, like it was late night shopping or nothing.
Yeah, I'm in Bendigo, which is regional Victoria, and we used to have it on a Friday night, late night shopping. Yeah. But speaking of vomiting, though, I actually got back from Bali last week, and the day I got back, I woke up that morning at 1 a.m. and vomited. And I was like, I'm so glad I don't get this anymore, like on the piss, because I did not enjoy vomiting at all. I was like, this is the worst thing ever. I must have had like a tummy bug or something. It was terrible.
We just got back from Bali as well. We were there for my 30th and I got the same thing. I ate food and I had to get a drip because I couldn't stop vomiting. And I was like, this was my life at one stage, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this was
the
a
norm.
casual weekend.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
Wow.
So Tash, tell us, in that 6 months where you were, you know, trying to stop drinking and you dipped your toe back in a few times, was it purely because of occasions or was it to fit in, or what was that trigger that made you drink over that 6 months when you knew you sort of didn't want to drink?
I think it was just the normal, you know, when you're out. Back then I don't think I had the mental fortitude and the strength. Like if other people were drinking, it was just such a norm. Like I'd meet up with friends and we'd have like a couple of drinks at a wine bar, and then, you know, they'd be like, oh, there's a really cool bar around the corner. And then you'd go for a couple of spirits, and it was never, like I said, no one ever calls you for a cup of tea. And it was really that time in my life where I had to have a look around at people who I was with. And that was, you know, friends of mine, I would go to see if I was upset or something, and they'd be like, well, we need to drink here. And it was so funny. Like, even we just had the most tragic wedding planning story. That's for another time. It's a very long story, but every time I cried a lot because our wedding got cancelled and no one was doing what they were supposed to do. And every time I was at a wedding appointment and I would cry, they'd be like, oh, we need champagne. Yeah, and it's such a reflex and a norm for people. And I'm like, I don't drink. Like, I don't want your champagne. I want to have an emotional moment and get out what I'm feeling, because that's okay.
Yes. I love that so much.
We actually refer to it as a Band-Aid in a bottle, because people just like, yeah, have a drink, put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah. Drink it up. You'll be fine.
Yeah. If it's a good emotion, bad emotion, whatever it is, put booze on it.
That's right. Celebrate. Pop champagne, sad, let's go for a drink, like that, you know. And it's so silly, and there's so much now. I think when I sobered up, there was so much unprocessed trauma that I had to start working with, that I had just bottle band-aided for the last 2 years of my life, and it was a really messy time getting sober.
Yeah, you've got to do the work, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
The work.
And then you got to discover who you are and where you fit in again. And it's like,
Yeah. And forgive yourself for, you know, the shame that you've carried for the stupid shit you've done, and make amends with some really uncomfortable moments back then. Yeah.
Totally. You know what? I still have moments and I'm trying to learn to sit with them, but it used to come like a rocket into the side of my head, and I'd think about things and I'd have like a physical shudder and try and shake it out of my head. And I was like, no, that's okay. Like, you just got to accept that happened. Say, hey, I'm really sad for that woman that was going through so much that that's what she thought she deserved, but it's okay. Like, we're in a better place now for it. And that's how I try to sit with it and process it now, instead of the shake.
Yeah, I love that. The shake. The honouring yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think when I realised last year, I went through a stage just going, oh, I didn't honour little Claire Bear. Like, it made me so sad for her. Like, I was just bawling my eyes out just thinking about what I'd let happen in my life, and just so crushed for her. And then I realized I need to honor her. And it's a really, when that switch happens and you realize your worth and what you want to create and bring into the world, and your self-respect and forgiving yourself. It's a beautiful moment, isn't it?
It's so lovely. I think that's the thing, because at first there's so much anger towards yourself. And that moment that it becomes to sympathy and forgiveness, it's this feeling of calm, you know. And I don't think you can compare it for other people. Like, it's just such an important part of your healing journey. Yeah.
100%. That's beautiful. I love that. And talking about your healing journey, because Gary, who was in love with you the whole time and he was only a friend, talk to us about how important his support has been through all of this. He sounds like the pillar of strength that's been there the whole way.
Yeah, he's my rock. He was as much of a party animal as I was, probably worse. And I had a fight with him one night and snapped with him, and something snapped in his head, and that was it. He was done partying. I was pretty harsh with
Was this when you were together, or were still friends?
This when we were friends.
As mates, yeah.
Yeah, and Gary had it in his head that I wanted to be with one of his mates and his girlfriend who I just met that night. I was like, what are you talking about? And so we had the first fight in our whole friendship, and that was it. After that, Gary didn't want to drink, didn't want to party, was so in control. And it was really funny. And I think for me, watching someone like Gary and having someone to talk about like what I'm feeling, it's been so pivotal in having that person by my side. And like I said, it's the people that are around you that really influence what you're doing. So when I started being able, because there was a long time, and I think lockdown was actually really great for that, I couldn't see people, and it was just Gary and I at home, and we were doing like our gym workouts on TV, and we were trying like keto and every single diet, doing weird things together at home to try and keep our minds occupied. And so when we came out of lockdown and I was ready to go back out, we went to a friend's birthday at a pub, and I sat drinking like a pot of tea out in the pub garden. And I was like, it's really funny, but I don't think had I been sat by myself at home during lockdown that I would have had the perseverance and the strength. And I think it would have been a repeat of the last time we came out of lockdown, and I would have just spiraled back to where I was. So I'm eternally grateful for Gary. And I think part of our thing as a couple is we used to have a great personal trainer, Adam Dykes, and his family don't drink. And they just, they live for the weekend because they go and do family things together, and they really normalize no alcohol. So if the boys have the opportunity to drink, they might have a beer, but then they that's it for them because they want to get up the next morning and do things with the family unit. And I was like, do you know what? That's me. That's what I want for my children. So
love this.
Yeah.
Oh, love that.
So Gaz, is he sober too, Tash?
Yeah, totally sober. Yeah, I think you have to be. One of my girlfriends finally went sober, and her husband drinks a lot, and she found it really quite hard and difficult because she'd be in bed at 9 p.m. and he'd come home at 1 a.m. blasted. And for me, I'm quite fortunate that we made the decision after our engagement together. And there's been times where I've said to Gary, do you know what, I'm kind of in the position where maybe I could go for a glass of wine with a friend. And he goes, but why? He goes, what's the point? And I'm like, you know what? True. Very true.
Is there anything worse than being sober and having like your partner come home drunk, stinking like cigarettes, and a night out all sweaty and snory and gross?
I don't think I could handle it. And it's funny because I'm trying now to be social again, but I really find it hard. And when you sit and people are so intoxicated, you're watching and you're like, oh my God, this was me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that was me. I know. It's cringe, isn't it?
It's very cringe. So I think, not for me.
Yeah, good.
I'll share a quick Bali story. So we was lounging by the pool. There was a guy in the pool and he was just knocking back the cocktails. He was sort of on his own. And then he gets out of the pool and he announces to everyone, I'm going for a massage. he walked past my partner and I. He's like, yeah. Like, I'm glad I'm not you, mate, because I don't know where you're going to end up tonight.
Bali. But during the week, did you see there was a guy that was drunk in Florida and went for a dip behind the bar, and a crocodile or an alligator was in there and it took his arm?
What?
Yeah, and he went swimming drunk, and then he was sitting in the water, and luckily people in the bar heard him screaming because he was too drunk to even get up. I think he was in shock and they had to call the ambulance. But I'm like, I don't know if I was ever that drunk that I would go for a swim.
I would have been. I think of all the misses, and it makes me cringe.
Totally.
We're very lucky, very lucky. So tell us, Tash, what tools did you use? Actually, before I ask that question, do you and Gaz drink alcohol-free drinks?
Yes.
Nice.
We love the mocktails, so that's our thing. And I find it really funny. We eat out a lot. We're food people, and it's quite interesting going into a restaurant and you see them almost disheartened that you're not going to drink because they're like, oh. And I'm like, hey, listen, we're going to order a lot of food. We're going to order all the mocktails, and sometimes like mocktails now in some places are $20 for a mocktail. And I'm like,
holy crap. Wow. Are these the ones with like the alcohol-free spirits in them?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Sam's drinks and Liars are really great. Like a Liars amaretti is exactly like an amaretto sour. Like I can't
they nail it.
Yeah, the substitution is unbelievable. Like
Yes.
even we went out to celebrate 2 years sober, and I had a Aperol spritz, but the Liars version, phenomenal.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, love
Have
that.
you had non before? Non?
No,
N-O-N?
no,
Yeah,
but
if you like your wines,
I've heard that they are the ones.
Yeah,
yes,
they are.
non are just like amazeballs. We also love Altina. They're in the background.
I love it.
We love Altina. They're one of our favourite as well. There you go, Meso. Meso's got hers. But yeah, they're getting, there's more and more hitting the market like every week. It's an exciting space.
Even like I think is it McGuigan's or someone like significant winemakers are bringing out a zero option.
Yeah.
And even for our wedding, which is now next year, but our intention was always to have a champagne tower, but have the 2 glasses of non-alcoholic champagne behind us. For us. So it doesn't have to be a big, obvious statement. And this is my thing now is that everyone knows that I'm sober. And all my friends now are champion it. And it's funny that I also inspire them to come on, and heaps of my friends, even my dad, we were just at a wedding and my dad's always been a big drinker. And we're at a wedding and he had like 3-4 beers and he's like, actually, I don't really feel like drinking. And I don't know if it's just because Gary was homesick with the flu and I was with my dad and his partner that he felt like not doing it because I was there. But yeah, it was really cool for me and it was a nice moment. And then that night when we were driving home, he was like, I'm just sort of losing the interest in alcohol. And I was like, beeping while driving. So
I love that. I think people are curious. Like when they see how well you're doing as well, they're like, well, maybe I don't need that much booze in my life either.
Yeah.
Snowball effect.
Exactly. When you see how good you look, like beaming, and you can't buy those fresh eyes, like that are full of wholesome and goodness and comfortable with who you are, that calmness. Yeah, that motivation and clear skin. And then they're like, I kind of want a bit of that. What is that? Do you know what I mean? And because you're not preachy about it, so people want to go, I want what she's got. Yeah. Love that. Brilliant.
Elevation by association, I call it.
Oh, I like that.
That's
a ripper. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah.
As I'm writing that down. So, tell us about what tools you used when you're like, that's it, no more booze. What was elevation by association?
Elevation.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, the alcohol-free stuff that we're talking about is a great one because I think that was like the story that I told about drinking the tea at the pub. Like friends of mine were like laughing a little bit, with like in a lighthearted way. But I think that alcohol-free stuff definitely helps with not feeling like you're missing out, and it stops consistently having to have that conversation around why aren't you drinking. And for us, it's quite hard because we've been going on a fertility journey. And when I started it, people were like, are you pregnant? I was like, no, we're actually struggling to get pregnant. Please don't ask that and assume that, that my alcohol-free choice is just to do with that. So the cutting out of people was my biggest one. I just had people around me, like you said, that weren't changing my tire on the side of the road and that were very much so party friends. And during the midst of post-maths, I really came into a spot of a lot of emotion, a lot of unprocessed trauma, and I had a bit of a breakdown, and it was like you couldn't get away quick enough. And that was, for me, that was really hard, and it was my friends from high school that rallied around me. So once I sort of got rid of all those friends, because they were constantly messaging me being like, have you broken your sobriety yet? Have you broken your sobriety yet?
Oh, no.
Bullshit.
Yeah. And we're like waiting for me to come back. And I was like, no, this is it. Like, I'm really done. And it was just those friends that were really championing me to stay sober. They were the ones that I wanted more of. But it's really hard cutting people out and not responding to texts. I think that's the strongest part. And it's the work. It's the healing work, because as you start getting more of it and you start feeling better and you start feeling that inner glow, more of it, it's the most addictive sensation in the world. to start healing. And it's hard. Like shadow work is hard, like crying and processing it is hard. But when you come out into the light, it's like floating. So yeah, totally. So I would do it all over again.
That's unreal.
When you left maths, Tash, did you have a lot of like appearances that you had to make, and was there a lot of partying after that?
Totally. There was a lot of partying, and I had already sort of party people around me from working in hospitality. Like I worked at high-end clubs and like private members clubs in the Ivy and stuff like that. So everyone around me thought it was the greatest thing that I was going to be on TV, and they all wanted to invite me places. So if I wasn't doing an appearance, I was being invited out with friends. And so there was never, like, if I really wanted to, I could be out partying from Monday to Sunday without trying. So it's the appearances. And I found it funny, like I even went to a hairstyling event, and with the owner, and it was when I was sober, and she was like, "Oh, can you just hold a glass of champagne so it doesn't look bad on me?" And I was like, put your glass of champagne down.
Wow.
The events are certainly very much so cluttered around alcohol. And I think that's a big thing that people need to start talking to, is the advertisement and sexiness that is behind alcohol advertisement. And it's not sexy. It's a chemical. Like you're putting chemicals into your body. That's why people smell the next day. It's why it affects like our skin. It's why it affects our internal organs. Like you're not meant to put that crap in your body. There's nothing sexy about it.
Did you educate yourself on booze?
Pardon?
Did you educate yourself?
Totally. Yeah.
Makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Totally.
Following on what you said, I posted this yesterday from at drop underscore the underscore bottle underscore. They have the best content, and it said alcohol is the only drug that causes generational destruction, but is marketed as a celebration.
Yeah.
Oh no, and that's people want to get so shocked around things like medicinal marijuana is about to become legal, and it is legal, and there's the push for that. But people are so more shocked by that than they are about alcohol, because alcohol is legalized, but it's a depressant. There's so much normalization around this thing that is so terrible for you.
Destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then tell us then, how do you feel? We've kind of touched on a little bit, but how do you feel about alcohol now?
I think it should be criminalized like the rest of recreational drugs, because it is an addictive drug and it ruins people's lives. And it's so funny, like watching people who do have drinking problems and watching my friends repeat patterns, and they're only young. And you got to remember, like, if this continues down the line, like this is why people have family breakups and they go to rehab, and it's an addiction. And at the moment, I've just cut my mum off. We don't speak at the moment because my mum will drink of an evening, and she's got a lot of unprocessed trauma, and she uses that time to unleash everything that's going on for her, and she's hurting a lot of people. Loves it. And she'll text my dad, and they've been separated for like 23 years, and says hurtful things. She said some absolutely atrocious things to me. And so Gary says if he sees my phone ring after 7 o'clock and it's her name, he goes, "Don't you answer that." And so we've just had to go through a thing where I've had to cut her off. But before that, I said to her, like, she offends her family. Like, I've spoken to my aunties about it, and I've said to her, you're hurting a lot of people when you're doing that. And she goes, "Well, I feel better." So, I just look at that, and it's such a strong nail home to me that it's something that I can't have in my life, and it's a problem. I look at couples that break up because of bad decisions that they make drinking, or things that they've said when they're drinking, and it's just nothing that I find that there's what's the positive to it. Find me a health benefit, find me a reason that I'm spending money on something. What does alcohol give me back? Problems.
Yeah.
Oh.
Makes you feel like crap.
That's it. Why am I paying to kill myself?
Yeah.
Huge,
So
powerful
true.
words.
And I think, that boundaries is so important, like to put those boundaries in place.
Boundaries. Boundaries is a theme word that, and I think your idea of boundaries sort of evolves as you start going along. Like you think you've got boundaries and then they start evolving. And that was the thing. I never thought I would be able to cut my mum off.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff you've got to do. And you've really got to take care of yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And you've got to start picking out things because, when you start getting older, one day it's not just going to be about you. You're going to have probably a family, or you're going to have a partner, or, there's going to be people that rely on you. And alcohol is just going to kill those relationships.
Yeah. So sorry to hear you've had to cut your mum off, but well done also on having the courage to do that. I think, I feel like there's this big thing, people are like, oh, you've got to love your family, like don't have any regrets, like you've only got one mum. But if, say, your mum was a friend and they were doing that, you'd have no problem cutting them off. If it was a friend, you'd be like, no, that's not okay, bye. But because it's a parent, you feel such a pull to, keep letting them do whatever they want to do.
Getting beaten down.
Pain. Yeah. So well done on, I know that must have been really difficult when you hear it, that it's crushing for you, but it's also courageous to go, no, that's not okay. I don't feel safe.
Yeah, that's right. And I tried doing, I think, same as, I don't know if I'm a cold turkey person, but same as giving up alcohol, I just did it bit by bit and setting a boundary. And every time she would come back, she would break that boundary. And I was like, do you know what?
You've tried.
Yeah.
Do
you miss anything about drinking, Tash?
Sometimes I miss the social aspect. For me, I really struggle to be around people that are drinking just because, not that I want a drink, but just because it's hard to be around drunk people when you're not drunk. So I miss the social aspect of wanting to be around people. But at the same time, I now have a group of people around me that I can go out and be social with, and there's no conversation about drinking, or even, if I do go out and I'm designated driver, friends won't take a lend of that and get hyper intoxicated and make me take care of them. There's a level. Yeah. So I think it's really about the boundary. It's really about picking your crowd, and it's cutting off those party friends. Like I say it to people all the time. Like we've moved to Byron Bay from Sydney, so I couldn't be further away. And if you don't have the strength to cut people off, maybe look at relocating, which I know is not an option for everyone. But it really
can.
Right. If you can relocate, if not, like change your address so people don't know where you are, and change your phone number, because that's it. It's inner strength. And sometimes you don't have that right away, so you've got to help take control of the situation and put those strategies in place.
We actually spoke to a fella, would have been last year, I reckon, and he was based in Adelaide and in a really alpha male footy culture, drinking culture. And so he ended up moving. I reckon he moved to the Gold Coast, didn't he, Meso? He moved away from that macho, beer drinking community that he was in, simply because that was going to work for him, just to put space between him and his friends, because he wanted to stop drinking. So, yeah.
There we go. Let's all move to the Gold Coast, Byron Bay. Or
done.
And it's warm here, sort of.
I know. We're in Victoria and it's bloody freezing. Well, Tash, we're starting to wrap up the potty. Okay, so we've got just a little rapid fire. So a quick series of little fun questions. So what's scarier, walking down the maths aisle or a maths dinner party?
Maths dinner party.
They're pretty epic, aren't they?
They're clever. They pressure cook you. They sit you out the back in the warehouse and you're not allowed to talk, and you're sitting there like mentally going over your head. So by the time you sit down to eat, everyone's just a pressure cooker.
And you're probably cooked, and it's a long time, isn't it? Like we see a snippet on TV, but it's actually hours.
That's right. It's forever.
And a lot of booze.
So much booze. But I remember they took a glass of probably the soberest I was at a dinner party. And I think I was like in a happy place, and I was just like having a little cozy chat to someone, and they took my alcohol off me, which I think was like a thing to agitate me at the time, thinking
push a few buttons.
Give it back. So yeah.
Oh wow. All right. Are you sitting down with Gaz and eating an eye fillet or a tomahawk?
Oh, we're Wagyu people. So do you know what? tomahawk because you get different sections of meat in it, and Gaz likes it. I like eye fillet, but Gaz is more a sirloin man. So
Yeah, nice. And who's the loudest sleeper in your house? Is it Spartacus? Is it Hardy, or is it Gaz?
Hades is like, I can't even, Gaz has to sleep on the couch until I fall asleep and then bring Hades in because he cannot fall asleep. He sits on his back and it is the loudest thing you have ever heard.
And he's a Frenchie, isn't he? He's a Frenchie.
He's a 2-year-old Frenchie. And he's so lean. Like, people told me, and I've had his nose checked, and they're like, and he doesn't snore on the couch. We've got a very comfortable Tempur-Pedic bed, and he just gets comfortable and gets in it and lets it rip. And I'm like, oh.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Meso's dog that she looks after is a little Frenchie as well. Yeah. And he's just noisy, isn't he, Meso?
Yeah, loves
always
it. He's like a little pig. He's a little slaughter.
He's like a pig.
You tell him off and he does this.
Yeah. He's like he's sniffing for truffles everywhere. It's the best.
Righto. So they're your little rapid fire questions, Tash.
Thank you for that. They were fun.
And now we'll roll into phone fuck up with the PH. So nothing can shock us here, Tash. Something that you've done on your phone when you've been sozzled. Meso, just before we wrap up the potty and jump into our last few segments, let's talk about our 2 new sponsors for season 3, starting off with Cinch Skin. I'm a massive fan. You're a massive fan. I've been using their Spray and Glow product. They're a skincare range. For the last 6 or so years I've been using it. I know you're all over their products too, aren't you, Meso?
I am. I'm showcasing them right now.
And the thing about the Cinch Skin is that it's skincare simplified. Oh, makes it nice and easy.
Yep. Uncomplicated, multi-benefit skincare routine packed with clinically proven ingredients for maximum results, and it's cruelty-free.
We love it. And they have generously given our listeners a whopping 25% off, I should say. The discount code is BFB25. And where do they shop, Meso?
Yes, at www.cinchskin.com. Yeah, you'll get amongst it. We love you, Cinch. Thanks for coming on board.
And we've also got
Gut Performance, which you use every single day. It's a prebiotic, and they've given us a discount code as well. It's BFB15 when you go to www.gutperformance.com. I'll just quickly .au. I'll just roll over and tell you the benefits. So peak performance when you're using Gut Performance can help with regularity, bloating, energy, skin, mood, immune system, digestion, and absorption of nutrients and inflammation levels. I've been using it, love it every single day. Will not go a day without it. So thank you, Gut Performance. We love you.
Thank you.
It's a phone fucking with the PH. So we don't give a F with the call or text. Phone fucking with the PH.
Probably my worst one. We were on a Europe trip for 4 months, and I'm very forgetful with my phone. And I don't know where I dropped it, but I hadn't backed up. We were like a month into 4 months, and I just dropped it and left it somewhere, and I was like, oh. And so I'm having a mid-panic. It started raining. I'm like to my best friend, call it. We're at like a massive campground with all these different young backpackers. And I'm like, oh God, it's gone. Like, I'm going to have to go 3 months with no phone. And I was very fortunate that somebody found it. And it was a responsible person that
an honest person.
Yeah. And the other one that I thought of was when I was
hang on, where did that happen? What country were you
in? Venice, in Italy.
Oh,
so I was like, oh my God, there's so long left and I won't have a phone.
Oh,
and then when I was 18, I went and met someone that I would date later on. And it was our first night meeting each other, and he'd seen photos of me, and he was my friend's brother. And my friend took me to the party and she introduced us. And then I took off with him, which was very silly in hindsight. And we went to another party and we hopped into bed and fell asleep. And he had knocked his beer all over my phone. Oh. So when I went to wake up in the morning to text my friend, sorry, I couldn't text her. I had to ask him for his phone to call my friend. And then I had to get the train back from Wollongong to Sydney with no phone as well. So they're my two.
What a debacle that was.
I was like, this is karma.
Yes.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's time for the recommendation of the week.
The Wim Hof method. I've got it. Yeah.
Reese's bag. Yeah.
Yes. Gary's currently on dopamine blockers as part of our fertility journey. And I feel he's got, no dopamine. So we have gone back to doing ice bath. So we do go at 6 a.m., do the Wim Hof breathing, and then we hop in this ice bath. And I got to tell you, it's the coldest ice bath I've ever had. It's with a guy up here called Your Mate Benny, who's trained in the Wim Hof breathing, and his ice baths are 1 degree. And it's like outside on a cold morning. But, that whole weekend that we've just had, we had so much happiness, so much joy. And I actually jumped out of the ice bath and had to get back in, which they say is a lot harder than just staying in there. But being able to do that and sit there for 2 minutes and do it as a couple, that's me. That's what I enjoy.
Love that.
I love that.
Same. There's just something incredible about invigorating cold water.
Yeah. I'm yet to do one. I do cold showers and might have a dip in the pool in winter, but I'm yet to do an actual ice bath. And I'm heading up to Darwin at the end of June, and my friend's got a wellness centre up there.
Amazing.
So we're doing an ice bath then. And I'm so excited.
It's the best, but you've got to just if you're Wim Hof breaths and you're ready, just do that. Just focus on the breath because it snaps you. I get shin splints when I first go in the cold water, and you've got to and tuck your hands under your armpits and hold on because there's something that warms you. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
If you sit your arms up because you've got that artery exposed, it makes it a lot colder. So
and do you feel like you're burning? Do you feel like it's like that burn?
A little bit, but if you sit really still, you form this thin thermogenic layer around you, but you've got to sit perfectly still. You can't have filtration water. You've got to sit perfectly still, and your body actually puts out a little heat thermogenic layer about this big, and you're okay. But the second that you move or breathe too hard or laugh, that's it.
So
just sit still.
Okay.
How amazing are our bodies, though?
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
So good, right? I will circle back and let you know how I go for my first ever ice bath.
FaceTime me and I'll walk you through it.
I love that. I love that. Well, Tash, this has been a lovely chat. I think it's so relatable. Your story, especially with Mesa and I, very similar. I've been drinking, and just the way you look, you sound, everything. You're an absolute picture of health now, Tash. And I think you're a really positive advocate in this space to show that you can still do all the things.
Yeah.
And do it while you're glowing, and you've created this beautiful life. You and Gaz and your little doggos have created this beautiful life, and there's a lot more exciting things to come for you. And it's just beautiful to hear where you were and now where you are.
Yeah.
And all because of what you've removed one thing.
Yes.
That's that was what I will reiterate what I put in my post. I just hope that someone listening to this takes the opportunity to realize that you're never too far gone and you're never too far damaged to start your healing journey, because every single person deserves the happiness that comes with sobriety.
Yeah. Did you get feedback, a lot of DMs after your 2-year post?
Yeah, there was heaps, and there's just people that want tips, and I need to sit down and do it because it's something I've been meaning to do for a long time. But, people out there want to get sober and they just don't have the tools or know how. And I get people inbox me all the time and say, how do you get sober? So
that's so good. Another thing, actually, sorry, Mesa, to cut you off. When you were saying before, when you were designated driver, don't you reckon it's such a vibe to be helpful? To drop people home, or it's more reliable and more helpful?
Yeah. Your friends are home safe, you feel good, you get home and you wake up without a hangover the next morning.
Yeah. And in control as well.
Yeah. Totally.
It's a vibe. It is a
vibe.
Well, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. And we are super jealous that you live in Byron Bay. I'm just putting it out there.
I've got heaps of spare rooms. But thank you, ladies, for connecting with me. And it's always such a pleasure to come and connect with like-minded people and get to share this journey that we're all on.
Oh, love it. That's amazing. We've really loved this, Tash. Your vulnerability the ripple effect of this will help more people, and will it ever know. So thank you.
100%. Thanks, Tash. Say hi to Gaz for us.
Yeah, I will. He came home and took the dogs for me because I was having they're so loud. Thank you so much.
Good on you guys. Thanks so much, Tash.
Bye,
Tash.
gorgeous.
Now, see ya.
This podcast is proudly produced by our audio engineer, music extraordinaire, Eric Ladd.
We love you, Eric.